Hello James! This video will cover both Git and Perlbrew and give you access to my latest work for you. You want to know why video is necessary, so here's a brief clip of Herzberg.
What will determine my motivation to play the piano? Well, one of the most obvious determinants of my motivation to play the piano is, can I play the piano? You can't motivate me to play a piano if I can't play the piano. You can't motivate me to fly an airplane if I can't fly an airplane. So one of the most basic variables that we forget with all the psychologizing about people's attitudes and so on is, can they do it? Ability. The more a person can do, the more you can motivate them.
You can recognise this clip applies to us both in different ways. You get the most productivity from me when I'm doing what I'm both good at and find easiest and quickest. So I begun tackling the ImageMagick task using alien ImageMagick within Perlbrew, because that's what I had the ability to do. You wanted it tackled using command line arguments. It's important you are listened to, and that I'm able to do what you need me to do. I can indeed do this, and that process will take me longer because it is a learning process for me. You've said many times you would like to use a versioning system. I hope this video will finally give you the ability to use Git. So that's why we'll be looking at both Perlbrew and Git. If you would like to watch more of Herzberg speaking on two-factor motivation, there is a video on YouTube that I can send you the link for. These are my notes on what you wanted done. I was to be given 4 picks and generate small, medium and large versions with the correct watermark. Then I was going to let you know whether the same method could be applied to all the 4 picks to achieve this, or whether some variations were needed. This is the script written, and these are the images it generates. You didn't want watermarks on small images, I just wanted to see how they came out. You're right, the URL is indeed too small to read. To keep things simple, the watermark is just a PNG image, created with Adobe's InDesign, where the transparency level was set, and then saved as a PNG from Adobe's Photoshop. This means you can just use a different watermark image if you want a different transparency setting or a different design. And any creative designer can do this for you without any programming knowledge required. I made 3 different watermarks, and you can specify which to use at the top of your script. I suspect you will want to have your say on the design, transparency, position and placement. This was good enough for testing the script with. It looks odd on the pawns, so some further tweaking may be needed. Can the script's approach be applied to your subroutines? The script grabs the image's width and height. Can that be grabbed via the command line and returned back to Perl? Or will I need to find a workaround? This is what I would look at next. The script written can still be useful because you wanted a test script for testing a successful Perlbrew installation on NetNerd. You now have shell access to NetNerd, and login is possible via SSH, like so. I wouldn't feel comfortable touching your live server unless I had your permission and you had a backup. You can see how simple installation is via this example account on my own VPS. We enter an install command and it installs. We add 1 line to the end of a file and save it. We log out and log back in again. That's it. Perlbrew is a Perl installation manager. Everything it installs, it does so to a Perlbrew folder, without interfering with system Perl or anything outside of that folder. Right, so basically Perlbrew is a Perl installation manager. So we can do Perlbrew list, and we've got nothing listed at the moment. So we can see what we've got available. And these are all the Perls that Perlbrew can install for us within the Perlbrew folder. So which one do we want to install? Well, you can see actually Perl 5.32 is out soon. It's actually going to be released, I believe, on the 20th of June, and that's the release candidate one you can try out. So it's really cool that you can kind of try out different versions of Perl and switch between them and yada yada, but let's try installing 5.30. This will allow you to put 5.30 on NetNerd, basically, within the Perlbrew folder, and then you can use the latest Perl within that folder. You can store whatever Cpanm modules you want. So let's install Perl 5.30. So we do Perlbrew, because we're using a Perlbrew command, and then we want to install, so we type install, and then we want the name of what we've seen listed there. So let's install Perl -5.30.3, and there we go. Now this is going to fetch it, download it, and yeah, we're waiting for ages and we can't see what's happening. So if we copy this command and do that command in a new window. So I'll just log back in to example, and this is logging in within a new window. You can see the old window is still there. All the old window will do is tell us it's finished when it's finished. But if we just add that tail command that it told us about into this second window, we can actually begin to see what it's actually doing. And this takes around about, I don't know, 20 minutes maybe. You don't have to do anything. All it's going to do is say, yep, it's installed, it's done at the end of it. So this is very simple. You just type what you want to install and wait for it to install. You can be doing other stuff whilst it's doing this. Obviously on a PC you would probably use PuTTY rather than I'm using Terminal here, which is the Apple Mac command line tool. But yeah, you would be using PuTTY to go and SSH into your NetNerd, and then you would type your Perlbrew install commands, and then once you've got Perlbrew installed, you could just install Perl 5.30 like this, and it would leave the existing system Perl on your NetNerd, and it would just install 5.30 to a folder within the Perlbrew folder. So you can use it if you want, not use it if you don't. So it gives you that flexibility. And the great thing about it is, of course, you can install all of these different versions to different folders and test your code on the latest version. So for instance, we could install 5.32 or the release candidate one and test our code works with that latest version of Perl. You don't really want to mess about with release candidates too much. They're the ones where they think they're just coming up to releases and they want people to volunteer and bug fix and stuff for them. So you want to wait until you've actually got a version of Perl without RC1 written after it, and then that will be the stable version you can use. So we're expecting that in a few weeks, later this month I believe, which is exciting. So yeah, this can take a while, so I will just skip the video ahead. There you can see it's finished the installation, and yeah, reported it's been successful, which is what we always like to hear, isn't it? Now when we type Perlbrew list, you can see the installed Perl versions. To switch to using one, you just type Perlbrew, switch, and then its name. Now when we run Perlbrew list, the version in use has a star next to it. Perlbrew has its own version of Cpanm for installing modules. To install Cpanm, we just type Perlbrew install -Cpanm. You can see the folders Cpanm uses by typing Cpanm -V. This allows you to check you will be installing modules to where you want, in this case Perl 5.30.3 within the Perlbrew folder. Here we can see not all the folders are the Perlbrew folder. This is because of current settings of environment variables. We can edit our bash profile file to always unset these whenever we log into the command line. Simply add a line with the word unset and then the names of the variables we want to unset. These are just unset for our user login session only. They are not system-wide changes and do not affect anything beyond our time spent logged in at the command line. This is our bash profile for our login session. Save the file, then log out and back in again to see the changes take effect. Running Cpanm-V again, we see that every folder listed is within the Perlbrew folder. Now we know our modules will be installed to the correct folders, let's use Cpanm to install a module. You simply type Cpanm and the module name. Alien ImageMagick by default installs the latest version of ImageMagick within Perlbrew. Sadly, the latest version doesn't always install correctly in Perlbrew. I solved this problem by editing Alien ImageMagick to use last year's 7.0.8-14 version of ImageMagick, which still works fine with Perlbrew. To install my edited version, upload it to your home directory. In your case, home/masters of games. In my case, home/mexample. And then type cpanm and the file name of the file you just uploaded. Installing ImageMagick in this way takes around 15 minutes, so I'll save you the wait and skip to the end. You will now be able to use all the Perl Magic commands in your Perl scripts, just by typing Use ImageMagick at the top of scripts which wish to do this. When you don't want to use Perlbrew, you can simply switch it off. Just type Perlbrew off. Now when we type Cpanm-V, you will see all the paths point at the locations for System Perl once again. With Perlbrew off, you can install modules to System Perl. With Perlbrew switch, you can install modules to the Perlbrew Perl you've switched to. While I've been making this video, Perl 5.32.0 has been officially released. I've installed it and we can switch to it. This simple script prints the version number of Perl. Let's now test it on System Perl, on Perl 5.30.3, and on the brand new Perl 5.32.0. If you want a script to use a particular version of Perl, you can change the shebang at the top of the script to point to the location of the specific Perl you wish to use. You can find the path of any Perlbrew Perl by switching to it and typing Perlbrew info. Add a hash and exclamation mark to the start of the path, and you've got a shebang pointing to a specific version of Perl. The script will now use the specific version of Perl in the shebang by default. Other versions of Perl can still run the script when we ask them to from the command line. Remember the variables we unset? They were telling Cpanm to install modules to folders that were not in the Perlbrew folder. That wasn't helpful when installing modules to Perlbrew, so we unset them. What happens when we want to install modules to System Perl and do not care about the Perlbrew folder? When turning Perlbrew off and installing modules to System Perl, you might get this warning. As you can see, the installation is still successful because it falls back to installing to our local Perl 5 folder, which is what we wanted anyway. The warning happens because we unset the variables. Getting back to normal is easy. We just comment out the unset line with a hash, save, exit, and log back in again. Now when we switch off Perlbrew and install a module to System Perl, there is no warning. When you want to install to Perlbrew again, return to Bash Profile and remove the comment hash again. You can always check things are as you wish by typing Cpanm -V. Here we see all the installation paths are back to being within the Perlbrew folder and for our specific Perl version we last switched to. Perlbrew is Linux only. For Windows machines, Steve Bertrand has created Berrybrew. Let's turn to Git. Because Git empowers you to save time and increase productivity by making syncing files and tracking changes very simple and easy, it's useful to learn. Do you know it took me under a week to learn? I simply read the excellent tutorials at Atlassian.com. They want Git users to buy into their Bitbucket service and so have created great Git tutorials that you don't have to be a customer to access. And any product placement or advertising for Bitbucket is easy to ignore when reading. You won't always have time to read long tutorials. I found some cheat sheets from GitHub to be helpful too. These list common Git commands for quick reference. You can find links to the tutorials and cheat sheets in the video description. Finally, as I continued to learn, I kept my own notes, also for quick reference. All Git repositories are independent, so when you've got a repository, you've got everything you need. The only connection to anything else is that if your repository was cloned from somewhere else, origin becomes a shorthand name for the repository your copy was cloned from. You can freely download and install Git for a variety of platforms from the official website, git-scm.com. Git is already installed on my VPS, and I can show you how easy it is. We'll create a repository, add a file to it, and commit a change. You can see here that I've created a folder via my FTP client. You can make it a Git repository by going into the folder and typing Git init. This is short for initialize. Now it is a Git repository. We have created a Git repository. Here I create a text file. When we type git status, we can see it is not tracked by Git. Tracking begins when you mention the files in a Git command and Git becomes aware of them. Because you may wish to change your mind later about tracking a file, Git gives you two commands, add and commit. Add says what you'd like to add to your Git repository, and commit tells Git to go ahead and actually add it. Let's add the file. We just type git add and the name of the file. Typing git status again tells us what our add command just did. It added the file to a staging area, which we can remove it from if we change our mind, and is now waiting for us to commit that we do indeed want to add this in its present state to our Git repository. To do this, you type git commit -m, this stands for message and allows us to add a message to this commit. We have now added to our repository. let's track some changes. You edit your file as you would normally, and when you are finally happy that your edits should be saved to your Git repository, you can commit to those changes. Because of our previous commit, Git now knows about this file, is tracking it, and notices it has changed. This means we can just go straight to a commit using the -a flag. This is short for all and says we'll be committing all changes, modifications or deletions to tracked files. We have now committed a change. On this Andrew account, I've configured a name and email for Git. This lets Git know who you are and what your email address is, so that when you leave a commit message, there is some evidence of who the message is from and how someone might get in contact to reply. On example, I haven't yet configured anything. When I try to do a Git commit there, it politely reminds me to configure my name and email first. A backslash, by the way, allows me to type on a new line. The two fields to populate are user.name and user.email. You use git config to configure the values of these, and a flag preceded by two hyphens to indicate if it's local, per Git repository, global, per logged in user, in this case example, or system, per operating system, in this case my whole Linux VPS. My name and email will always be the same on my account, so I use global to set a value for my logged in account. Git config global user.name example. Git config global user.email example at masterstest.com. If I didn't type global, it would default to local and just store a name and email for that one Git repository, rather than my whole account. Let's put what we've learned to use. Let's create a Git repository on the mdev account that I can put my work in and you can retrieve my work from. We'll adopt two conventions and use a shortcut. The shortcut is to skip creating a folder first. This time, we'll give the git init command a folder name, and it will create the folder for us automatically. Central repositories, even though technically still a folder, are conventionally given a name ending in .git, so users can tell it's a Git repository they're accessing. That's the first convention we'll adopt. We'll also add a flag called bear. This is the second convention. The bear flag, typed with two hyphens in front of it, creates an empty or bare repository with no working directory from which to add or commit files. This means the mdev account itself isn't a user working with the repository. This is just a central location, and it is you and I that will work with files from the comfort of our own accounts. So now we've created a Git repository on mdev, let's exit. Now I can log in as Andrew to add files, and you can log in as James to retrieve my files, edit them, or add any of your own. Have you used the James account before, James? It may be that you would prefer to use your Windows PC instead of my Linux VPS, so we'll look at how to do that too. For either of us to get started, we just need to know where the Git repository is hosted and what the username and password is for that web host. We're going to make our own copy to work with, which is called cloning. So we type git clone, and then we type the location. We'll be connecting via SSH to the mdev user account at masterstest.com, and the rest is the location and folder name of the Git repository we made. When it's cloned, the .git part of the folder name is automatically removed, and we're left with a working folder to begin using. So let's add some files. I've already prepared the files I wish to send to you on my hard disk, so I'll upload them to my VPS using my FTP client. I could type git add email ImageMagick Invoices to add the 3 subfolders to my Git repository. Instead, I'll use the shortcut git add dot. This will add everything in the current directory to the staging area. Then I can commit it. Git commit -a -m. Hello James, I am adding email, ImageMagick and invoice subfolders to our repository. Yours, Andrew. I've committed a change, and I'm happy with it and eager to share it with you. During cloning, origin is defined as where you cloned from, which in this case was our central repository. So let's push our changes back to origin. We'll type git push origin and then the name of the branch we wish to push. We haven't made any branches of our own. We've just used the default master branch. So we can just type git push origin master. In future, you may have been working on lots of branches and want to push them all in one go. That would be git push origin :all. Push all branches to the central repository. That'll work for us now too, so let's use that. Now my email work, ImageMagick work and invoices are all in the central repository on mdev, waiting for you to download a copy. Let's switch to mexample and show an example of how you might do that. Just as before, we type git clone, followed by the repository location. We'll be connecting via SSH to the mdev user account at masterstest.com, and the rest is the location and folder name of the Git repository. The tilde character, by the way, is short for the account's home directory. Now you have a folder with all the files in it. You only need to type git clone when you first create this Git repository. Once created and you just want to update it, you use pull. Git pull origin will fetch the latest stuff and merge it with your local stuff, i.e. it's going to put the latest stuff in your working directory. Great for checking if someone has added anything new. If you have made some edits, and someone else has already made some edits, and saved them centrally, Git helps solve that situation. It will reject your push back to origin until you've resolved the conflict. You can do a git pull to fetch the changes someone else made and merge them into your working directory, and where there's a conflict, Git will highlight that conflict and invite you to resolve it. Resolving it just consists of opening the file, looking for the differences that have been clearly marked, editing it to what you desire, and then committing your edit just like normal. Perhaps you'd prefer to look at the latest stuff before merging it with your stuff. You can take that approach instead. Just type git fetch origin. This will fetch a copy of what's at the central repository for you to look at. Nothing appears to have happened. Using the verbose flag, we see that's because, just like on Blue Peter, I've got an up-to-date copy I already fetched earlier. We've only worked with the master branch, but now you have two branches. Your master branch, called master, and Origin's master branch, called origin/master. That's a copy we just fetched of what's in the remote central repository. To check out what's in a branch, you type git checkout and the branch name. This changes the entire contents of your working folder to reflect the branch you're checking out. So, we can look at our version, and then we can look at the remote version. Now, when editing our version, we can decide to include what was in the remote version or not. A, B, and C will be the best integration and resolution to the differences. So we'll commit that version to our master branch. Our master branch is still different to the origin master branch. So we'll ask Git to merge them. Just as earlier, Git points out there's a difference to resolve. In this context, when we're resolving conflicting differences, the git checkout command has another use. We can type our file name and just before it add one of three flags to specify what version we'd like in our working directory. The flags start with a double hyphen and are ours for our version of the file, theirs for the other version of the file, in this case what's currently at the central repository, or merge, which is the version of the file with markers showing the differences. We want our file that we just saved to be our resolution of this conflict, so we'll check out our version of the file. And then commit it to say we're happy to use our version as our resolution to the conflict. With the conflict resolved, Git now allows you to push back to origin. Git push origin all. Push all our branches back to the central repository. So that's two ways to do it. Git pull automatically fetches and merges, or Git fetch allows you to look at what was on the central repository first and then use Git Merge when ready. And you don't have to exhaustively remember all this, because as you've seen, typing Git status often gives handy clues of what's going on and what the next step should be. You can also find a cheat sheet I've made for you of everything we've looked at in this video in the central repository. After installing Git, you may also wish to install Git Completion. This auto-completes Git commands for you, so you've less typing to do. Even still, typing things can be a pain. You asked me if there were any GUI apps. Remember the official Git website? They list loads of them, for all sorts of platforms. Back in May, I asked on the Perl Programmers Facebook group which of these were people's favourite. Everyone seemed to have a different preference, and online services such as Gitlab were mentioned as well. I've linked to the discussion in the video description if you'd like to check it out, and also included the link to the GUI client's download page. For now, let's randomly pick one and see how easy or difficult it is to install and use in Windows 10. So we're looking at Git clients, and I've heard that SourceTree is good, and we can see that one's free. I also heard that Sublime Merge was good, although that appears to be $99 per user. But there's a free evaluation, so we will download that and evaluate that as well. Right, okay, so we've downloaded both of these to a folder. Let's open that folder, here it is. And let's try SourceTree setup. Now, what I haven't done is installed Git. I tell you what, let's go back to the home page and install Git as well, or at least download it and save it to that same folder. So let's save the file, let's save it there. And there it is, look at that lovely green bar as it downloads. Right, so I'm curious, can I install one or both of these clients without ever actually installing Git? Will it prompt me to install Git? Will it ask me to? Will it automatically install Git for me? Let's try, let's see what's going on. Hello? What's this? We have a DOS window. So I should point out there is an external hard drive that this virtual machine is running off of, and the hard drive is slow, it is not an SSD. So this is going to take longer than it would if I was doing this all on my internal solid state drive. But where possible, I guess I can... Oh no, hello, that's finished installing. That was quick. But I haven't got any options, have I? Where's my options to have an icon to launch the program from? Oh, hello, it's still doing stuff. Oh, here we go. Do I want to register for Bitbucket? No, I don't. Let's skip that. Thank you. There it is. It automatically offers to install Git for me. Let's do some advanced options. I have no idea what Mercurial is. It's a free distributed source control management tool. Oh, it's an alternative to Git. That's amazing. There's something besides Git we could use. Well, we're not interested in that today. So CRLF are Windows line endings, and LF is Mac and Linux line endings. You would probably want that. So you can configure Git to ignore certain file types. Well, we might as well. Right, okay, let's go next. Let's go next. What's happening next? It's downloading Git, which is fantastic because I already downloaded it there, but I'm sure it will download its own version, and I will be curious to see if it is 2.28 it installs or another version. I would have expected them to tell us what version they're installing. That's what I hoped Advanced would be about. It's not telling us. So, drum roll. Let's wait for this. Let's see what we have. I would probably be kind to you and skip ahead. Nope, there's no need to. It's all installed. Right, okay, next. It's going to put it in a funny folder with my name on the end. Right, so it's my name. Right, no, my name will be Andrew, thank you very much. and my email address will be win10 vm andrew at masterstest.com. There we go. Next. Right, do I have a SSH key? No, I don't have one to hand at present, so no. It turned out SourceTree did not create any icons on the start menu during installation. You can make your own shortcut to the program by searching for SourceTree in Windows Explorer and then creating a shortcut. Okay, so let's see what we can do. How easy is it to... Oh, let's see if we can get a remote repository. Search! Search for a remote. I don't want to search for one, I want to go get one. Oh, let's try open. Oh yes, we can clone. Let's try this. A path! Brilliant! So let's see whether this works then. Let's just do what we've been doing. Let's see if this works. mdev at I can't type today. masterstest.com. Squiggly line, tilde, I guess you would call it, folder.git. Okay, what do you mean destination path? Oh, where I want to save it. It hasn't been cached yet. Do you want to accept the key? Yes, I bloody well do. Right, okay, checking source. Checking source. Authenticate. Brilliant. Okay, so now we do it. There's mdev and our password is... Brilliant. Let's log in. Right, okay, let's change our directory. There it is, my Git stuff. Right, select folder. There we are, my Git stuff. Yep, and what's this supposed to be? This is supposed to be name. A bookmark name. Right, okay. My first clone attempt. Right, okay. There we are, advanced options. Ooh, which branch we want to be on? Master, there's only master, anyway. Oh, isn't this lovely? Okay, right, so let's clone. Let's clone away. Let's show our full output. Ew, it's all command liney stuff. Oh my goodness. Right, okay, close then. What now? Oh, it's loading the history. Oh, brilliant. Oh, we get to see all the history. So there's the hello James, I'm adding email, ImageMagick and invoice. Here's what I added. Yeah, it was all added, wasn't it? Here's the adding the letters. And we see who did it. So this was Andrew. This was example. That's amazing. Oh, you can branch with an icon. You can merge with an icon. No commands. You can pull. And you can push. You can fetch. And I told you what all these were now. Oh, Git flow is the workflow, isn't it? That I showed you during the job interview. Yeah. And there's a blooming icon there. You can just install it. That is amazing. So let's do the obvious thing and figure out what version of Git we've got and whether it installed the latest 2.28 or whether it installed some other version. Embedded Git 2.26.2. Okay, so embedded is the version that comes with SourceTree, but otherwise you can install Git on your machine yourself and use the system Git. So that's it. Right, okay, so we're stuck on version 2.26, but I believe on my VPS I have Git version 2.21, so it's newer than the version I was showing you anyway. Okay, so we've done it basically, haven't we? So let's say I type something. This is a new file, and let's say I save it into my Git stuff. Oh yeah, wow, there it is. Oh whoa, so it didn't put a folder called folder in there. Literally my Git stuff became the name of the folder. Well, that's a bit dumb, isn't it? But there we go. Okay, what should we call this? An even newer file. An even newer file. And say there's ANSI. There's ANSI. No. UTF-8, please. Right, okay, an even newer file. There we go. So now what? Let's see what's happened. We have uncommitted changes. Yes, we do. There is an unstaged file called even newer. And don't tell me it's as easy as clicking add. What's happening? It's staged. So that's as if I typed git add in the file name. Okay, so now it's tracked. We want to commit it, don't we? What are other settings? Oh, we can unstage it. There it is, back to untracked. We can add it again. We want to commit it. There we go. File status, one pending file. Yeah, so let's bloody commit it. Oh, this is my message, is it? Hi James, I'm committing a file from a Windows 10 virtual machine. Let's see how this works. There we go, look, we've got an exclamation on the end. Let's see how that works. Push changes immediately to origin master. So that push it immediately back to the central repository? No. Let's, commit options. We've got some options. Amend the latest commit. Sign off, create a pull request. No. Let's just commit. Nothing to commit. That's because I already committed everything. So let's go back to our workspace. Oh, this is our history. Hi James, I'm committing a file from Windows 10 virtual machine. Let's see how this works. This is a new file. Right, okay, so it says 1, I ought to push it back to the central repository. So let's click push. On my computer it's master, and at the central repository we want to be master. Head is the position we're currently at, and we're currently at master, so they're both exactly the same. Right, okay. This all looks good, and we're pushing it to origin. There's no other option. And this is our address again. Brilliant, let's push it. Let's push it back. Let's fetch and see what we've got. Let's get into the folder though. So this is our git status. Git fetch origin. Let's do that. Okay, let's git checkout origin master. Okay, let's see what we've got now. Refresh this. Yeah, an even newer file. There it is. And there it is. This is a new file. Brilliant. So yeah, the push went absolutely superbly. Right, so this is it. This makes things easier. You find your way around. You've got icons for everything. Branch, merge, whatever. Push, pull. Yeah. Completely free. Completely possible. Let's see, I could do open a new tab. Clone something else. Let's exit SourceTree. Let's try the other one. So we've got Sublime Merge build. Do you want to allow this app to make changes? Yes. Sublime Merge and program files. That seems like a good folder for it. Install. There we go. Didn't ask us once about Git, did it? There, it's finished. Done. Okay, so does this add an icon? So we're looking for Sublime Merge. You're so sublime. There it is. Yes, we have an icon. Now, isn't that great? Create a shortcut, place it on the desktop, throw one up there. Right, okay, let's launch it. Let's launch it. It's Merge, and it's unregistered. This is an evaluation copy. Right, what do we want? Source URL. So here we go. Let's try it again. SSH mdev at masterstest.com/folder.git. Okay, the repository name is going to be folder. That's a good repository name. I'm happy with that. The destination will be my desktop. No, I don't want it on the desktop. Let's put it in my Andrew folder. Let's put it in my Git stuff folder. But my Git stuff has become a repository, hasn't it? Which is stupid. So let's see if we can do a new folder and say lots of Git stuff and see if we can have more than one repository in one folder. Select. Yes, now the repository will be in a folder called folder. So yes, let's give it that name. Let's call it folder. And I guess we ought to store it in folder. I'm wondering which way my slash. Oh, folder. No, thank you. No, thank you. Right, let's call it folder. I'm happy with this. No, let's call this my first clone. Oh no, it's going to replace it. Okay, so whatever name I give it, that's going to be the folder name. Right, okay, so let's call it folder, because that's what it is on my VPS. Open repository, new repository. What are we doing? Well, no, we're doing this. We're cloning a repository. So let's clone. Right. This is the same warning with the same fingerprint. Do we want to continue? Yes, we do. That's fine. Okay. Maybe it wasn't fine. Let's try again. Yes, no, or fingerprint. Let's type yes. Ah, that's it. That's all we had to do. Type yes. Right, mdev at masterstest.com password. Yeah, okay. Right. Yeah, cool, that works. That works too. Oh, look at that. We've got nice little... That looks nice, doesn't it? That's only showing the changes. Okay, but here's all our files. So here's all the email stuff. Okay, so let's open Notepad again. Let's make another new file. Let's make another new file. La la la. Tra la la. Right, okay. And let's save this. Let's save this to... no, not to my Git stuff, thank you very much. Let's go up a directory. And lots of Git stuff. And folder. Brilliant. So it got the right name this time. Let's call this yet more 01.txt. And let's save it. No, not as ANSI. I'm going to save as UTF-8. UTF-8, it's the future. It's actually the present. Right, okay. Let's make another new file. La la la. There we go. Ah, one unstage file. There we are. There it is. Right, one untracked files. What do we want to do? Delete it? Delete all. Delete everything. Come on, mate. Right, we've got one untracked file. It's called yet more. And we can stage it. Yeah, let's stage it. Right, okay, so now it's staged. And there we go, commit one file. Yeah, cool. Enter a commit message. Hi, James. Oh, look at that. Look at that. That's the email address we entered on SourceTree. That means it set it to be for this whole, what? For this whole operating system or this whole user account? I don't know. But that's interesting, isn't it? I don't have to enter in my name and email. Anyway, hi James. Adding a file from Sublime Merge this time. Okay. Oh no, let's say adding a second file from Windows 10. Okay. From a second Git GUI. Okay, let's commit that one file. Okay, so now this is all up to date. Let's have a look and let's go up here and actually show that now in our lots of Git stuff we've obviously got yet more, but in my Git stuff we don't yet. So let's let's use SourceTree to update. But let's go back to this one and push it all back to the central repository. Pushing. It hasn't told me it's pushed, but we're just going to assume it went okay because it didn't complain about it. Let's go into SourceTree. So what we want to do now is pull in the changes. Let's do it. Show full output. Complete successfully. And there we are, yet more 01 was downloaded. So let's see if that's true. Yep, there we are. Just added at this time. Right, okay, 1 minute ago. Refresh. That's pretty cool. Lots of Git stuff. They now both have it. So there you are. Both updated from the central repository. So yeah, this is it. They both work. They both work reasonably. One's evaluation, one's free. Play around, use the icons, all the concepts we learnt still work. Let's make another new file. La la la, tra la la. Yeah, brilliant. Okay, that was that. Done. Excellent. As we're in Windows 10, I should point out you can use PuTTY to try out everything I've shown you on my Linux VPS. I'll include the link to this official download site in the video description. PuTTY is super easy. You can connect to a host like masterstest.com and enter a username like mjames and log in with your password. You can also connect as a user at a host, like I'm doing here with mexample at masterstest.com, and then log in with your password. As you can see, all the Git commands I've shown you work, and this is how you could use the mjames account on my VPS, in the same way I used mexample when showing examples of how to do things in this video. It's also how you could log into your NetNerd command shell and install Perlbrew. Would you like to see what's in the repository? You get 2 versions of an email script. Integrated is my code, pasted into your lib email, ready for you to test it. Separate is my code, fully tested and working, with test results to view, and a small subroutine that calls it, passing on the website mode variable. This approach saves you time bug fixing integration. In both versions, I've included a new version of ServerDetails that uses Perl 5.16 instead of 5.30. This will now work well on both your 5.16 NetNerd hosting and your 5.30 Strawberry Perl environment. During installation of SourceTree on Windows, there is an option to automatically convert line endings. This will convert files to Windows line endings when you open files on Windows, and back to Unix line endings when the files are sent to the central repository on my Linux VPS. The email templates are expected to have Windows line endings even on my Linux VPS, and they currently do. If you edit these templates and the line endings accidentally change, you may wish to reflect that change in this regular expression in the email script that looks for a particular line ending in the email header. As well as that, there are notes on Git, both cheat sheets and my own notes. In the ImageMagick folder, I've included the fixed alien ImageMagick in case you require it, as well as design files for all the logos. Pictures, fonts, and PDFs and Adobe InDesign files are all included, as well as the script and also a spaced out version of your modules. There are invoices for the 1st of June and 22nd of June, the latter doesn't charge beyond the 13th of June, and notes on this very video. And that's the contents of the repository. Finally, here are some things I should point out. All the examples I've been showing you are on my VPS. On the NetNerd website, you can see they also offer customers a VPS. If you need one too, they can provide you with one. Then you can set up your own development, production, Andrew, James, example, and other accounts as needed. That said, using a VPS is just one option. Using Amazon Web Services or Google Cloud Platform is another. And I'm looking forwards to learning more about these in the near future. On my VPS, the central repository was on the mdev account. It was a bare repository with no working directory from which to do adds or commits. If the mdev account user needs to add or commit files then, it too, like any other user, could clone this central repository and work with the cloned version, even if that clone was just a different folder on the same account sitting right next to the central repository folder. A couple of weird things. The shell we type our commands into on Linux and Mac is bash. And bash gets confused when it sees an exclamation mark at the end of a git commit message and thinks it's a command related to history expansion, which it clearly isn't. So it gives us an error. Now there are two very simple solutions. You can use single quotes for your git message and all will be fine. Or if you want to use double quotes still, because you're using the single quote character for apostrophes in the message, then just add a space before the closing double quote. Git will remove the trailing space from the message, so it's harmless submitting it and saves you this weird error. Another strange thing is that Git is a version tracker for files, so it will never version track an empty folder. Aha! If you'd like it to, create a .gitkeep file within the folder. It's pretty much a hidden, or let's say invisible file, but it prevents the folder from being empty and thus enables the otherwise empty folder to be tracked. And that, James, believe it or not, is that. In the time it's taken me to make this video, Perl 7 has been announced. It is due next year, is identical to Perl 5.32, but has all modern features automatically enabled without having to type use or version commands to switch them on. Exciting times. There's stuff we haven't properly covered. Git branches, for example, allow you to branch off of the main version and make a bunch of changes on a separate branch before merging back into the metaphorical tree trunk that is the master branch. That's beyond the scope of this video, which is just about getting you started. Every job should be a learning experience. This is what I've learned, and I'm now looking forwards to learning more. What is Gitlab? What is continuous integration? I will venture forth and find out.